What if staying calm in chaos was the most powerful skill you could ever learn? Discover why inner peace, not outward success, is the key to unshakable strength. In a world that demands reaction, learn how true power lies in your response. It's your response, not your circumstances, that determines where your life goes. Mindset isn't just how you think, it's how you live. It's the strength you show when everything falls apart. Stoicism doesn't promise that life will be easy, but it teaches you how to live in a way that nothing can shake your inner peace. Because if you're not truly happy, you haven't truly succeeded. And if you want success that lasts, you have to start with your mindset. Today, that's what we're going to talk about. 1. You don't control the world. You control yourself. We spend most of our lives trying to change the world. We complain about the weather, feel let down by others, and get confused when things don't go as planned. But Stoicism teaches us one simple and powerful truth. Some things are beyond our control, and the only thing we truly own is our mind and our response. Epictetus, a slave-turned philosopher, once wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." That's not a call to surrender. On the contrary, it's a liberation. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, like other people's attitudes, gossip, or the turning of the world, you start reclaiming the energy to control the one thing you can, yourself. Stoicism draws a clear line between two things: what's within your control, thoughts, attitude, behavior, reactions, and what's outside your control, what others think, the weather, market fluctuations, even your own body getting sick. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference and focusing all your attention on the first. Everything else we learn to accept as part of the flow of life. In an age where everyone's shouting to be noticed, Ryan Holiday chose the opposite path: quiet, discipline, and consistency. As the best-selling author of The Obstacle is the Way, and Stillness is the Key, Holiday doesn't just write about Stoic philosophy, he lives it every single day. He left the noise of the city behind, lives on a small farm in Texas, wakes up early, reads, writes in silence, and stays off social media. For Ryan, stillness isn't an escape. It's a deliberate choice made to cultivate clarity and conscious action. In a world driven by knee-jerk reactions, Holiday reminds us stillness is not inactivity. It is the key to clarity. You can't control the noise out there, but you can choose not to let it invade your inner world. Every day you face your own personal camps, unemployment, heartbreak, criticism, feeling lost. But the real question isn't why is this happening to me? It's how will I respond to this? Don't waste energy trying to change what can't be changed. The weather might pour, people might hate you, outcomes might disappoint, but your response is your ultimate weapon. A calm mind in a storm is the highest expression of inner strength. No drama, no noise, just you and the decision you're about to make. And that's exactly why mindset is everything. It's the armor you put on each morning. It's the compass you follow when the world spins off course. That mindset doesn't come from a weekend seminar. It's built by training every thought, every small reaction day by day in silence. But if reason is the weapon to face the world, then emotion is what most often throws us off course. Stoicism doesn't teach us to suppress emotions. It teaches us to do something even harder, to place emotions under the guidance of reason. So, how do you stay calm when emotions surge? How do you live honestly with your feelings without being ruled by them? Let's move on to the next section where you'll discover why the calmest person in the room isn't the one who feels nothing. It's the one who knows themselves so well that emotion no longer has control over them. 2. Emotions are temporary. Character is eternal. Emotions are an inseparable part of being human. We get angry when we're insulted, sad when we're hurt, excited when we succeed, and panicked when we fail. All of that is natural. But what separates a fragile mind from a resilient one isn't whether or not we feel emotions, it's how we respond to them. Stoicism is often misunderstood as a philosophy of coldness or indifference that denies emotion. It simply points out that emotions are not reliable leaders of life. If you want to stay calm and confident, you can't let your emotions take the wheel. You must learn to lead your emotions with reason. Calmness, often mistaken for coldness in Stoicism, is the expression of a disciplined inner world. To be calm doesn't mean you feel nothing, it means you feel deeply. You understand what you feel, but you are not ruled by it. It's the state where anger doesn't lead to destruction, fear doesn't stop you from moving forward, and pain doesn't rob you of dignity. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest emperors and most respected Stoic philosophers, had a daily habit of journaling. Not to complain, not to record triumphs, but to examine his own emotions, each fleeting thought, every subtle shift in feeling. For him, facing his emotions wasn't a weakness, it was part of mental discipline. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's not just a mantra, it's a warning. In a world full of chaos, where you can't control the weather, other people, or even fate itself, the only thing you truly own is your mind. And when you master your mind, you're no longer a slave to your emotions. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. Winds howling, insults flying, pressure rising, silent fears swirling. You can't stop the storm, but you can choose to stay grounded. And if you stand firm long enough, the storm will pass and you'll still be standing. That is the Stoic spirit. A spirit that doesn't run from emotion but refuses to be conquered by it. And here's the truth worth remembering. Emotions are always temporary. You might feel awful tonight and wake up lighter tomorrow. But if in the middle of that awful moment you act foolishly, lash out, give up on something that matters, the consequences that could last far longer. Emotions pass, but the character you leave behind is what truly endures. That's why Stoics don't reject emotion. They choose the right moment to respond or not respond at all. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they know some things don't deserve a reaction fueled by impulse. In a world addicted to intensity and quick reactions, this quality is rare and incredibly powerful. When someone insults you online, you have every right to be angry. But you can also choose rational silence and let that silence say, "I am not ruled by impulse but guided by the values I believe in." That's composure. That's strength from within. In the end, managing emotions isn't about suppression or faking happiness. It's the ability to see your emotions clearly, understand where they come from, and respond in a way that aligns with your values, not your reflexes. Within that discipline, you'll find peace, and in that peace, you'll find yourself. Not the version tossed around by every wave, but the person you intentionally chose to become. So if mindset is everything, then taking charge of your emotions is where it starts. Emotions are temporary. Character is eternal. Emotions will pass, but character stays. And you decide which one will win. 3. Accept fate as part of the journey. Joe was an ordinary man until he received the diagnosis: terminal cancer. No chance of a cure. No tomorrow to wait for. For many, this would be the end. But for Joe, it was an awakening. He didn't curse life, didn't blame God, didn't rebel against the unchangeable. Instead, he chose to fully live each day he had left. He smiled at everyone he met. He wrote letters to his children, hugged his wife a little longer, and spent his remaining time inspiring other patients who had lost hope. Someone once asked him how he could remain so calm. Joe simply said, "Because I stopped fighting fate. I didn't choose this illness, but I choose how to live with it." This is the spirit of Stoicism. Accepting fate is not surrender. It's about living fully in imperfect circumstances. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who faced war, plague, and death, once wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This isn't just poetic imagery, it's true. When we stop complaining and learn to turn hardship into fuel for inner strength, even pain becomes a source of light. The Stoics called this amorati, to love your fate, not merely endure or live with it, but to truly love what is happening because it is an inseparable part of the path we're on. As Seneca once wrote, "The wise do not demand the storm to cease. They learn to steer their ship through it." When we fight reality, we suffer twice. Part of it comes from the circumstance. The rest comes from the resistance in our own minds. Why me? That question never has a satisfying answer. But if we ask instead, what can I do now given this reality? Everything changes. God never promised life would be fair, but He gave us free will, the power to choose our response. And in that choice, we reveal our dignity, our strength, our faith. Acceptance does not mean paralysis. On the contrary, it's the first step in reclaiming ownership of your life. When you stop wasting energy on wishing for the impossible, you free up time and strength to change what you can, your attitude, your actions, and your sense of purpose. Here's the paradox. The more we accept life's imperfections, the lighter we feel. Control doesn't come from changing the world out there. It comes from transforming the world within. When you see life as a gift, even a brief one, you start to live differently. Every morning becomes a miracle. Every hug, every conversation, every breath becomes a sacred part of the journey. Joe didn't defeat cancer, but he did conquer himself. He lived with clarity, love, and gratitude. And in the end, when he closed his eyes, he didn't go in fear, but in peace, because he knew he hadn't run from his fate. He had embraced it as something sacred entrusted to him by God and the universe. When you accept fate as part of your path, not with resentment, not in denial, you don't just become strong, you become free. You no longer need the world to change. You only need to keep your inner self steady. And from that place of calm, you move forward, not in panic, but with deep stillness and an unshakable confidence. That is the true power of living by Stoic philosophy. For no one can take away your confidence unless you let them. There are times when a single sentence can hurt you for days. An insult, a look of disdain, a venomous comment in front of a crowd. The modern world gives us endless chances to feel small, but what truly matters is this: how you respond to it. That is entirely in your hands. Stoicism teaches us no one can hurt you unless you allow them to. Emotions aren't wild beasts, they are governed by thought. Stoics do not deny that pain is real, but they emphasize this. Pain does not come from the event itself, it comes from how you interpret that event in your mind. Epictetus once wrote, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." This sentence exposes a truth many people avoid. You are not being controlled, you are agreeing to be controlled. When someone insults you, they can throw sharp words your way, but if you don't catch them, they can't touch you. You still have a choice, to stay calm or to burn with pride. Accused of corrupting the youth and disrespecting the gods, Socrates stood before the Athenian court without fear. He didn't plead for his life, nor did he beg for mercy. Instead, he used reason to question the very society that was judging him, and accepted death with an astonishing calmness. In Phaedo, he told his students, "Death is not a bad thing if the soul truly is immortal." To Socrates, the value of life was not measured in length, but in integrity. When sentenced to drink hemlock, he did not curse his fate. He simply asked his followers not to weep and reminded them to settle a final debt to the gods as a man departing the world with absolute peace of mind. He could not control the verdict, but he fully controlled how he faced it. That is the height of an unshakable mind. You have that space too. When someone criticizes you online, ignores you, insults you, or tries to make you feel small, you have one quiet second to choose. Do I let this take over my mood, or do I hold on to my power? Confidence or collapse begins in that very moment. Stoicism doesn't tell you to never feel pain. It teaches you to choose what's worth the pain. When you find yourself crushed by a faceless comment, ask yourself, where have I placed my worth? In someone else's words or in the principles I live by? A Stoic places value within, not in how others see them. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, faced endless slander, political schemes, and betrayal from those closest to him. But he never reacted like a victim. He wrote in Meditations, "If you are harmed, it is because you have decided that you are." His confidence didn't come from a throne, but from awareness of his own reactions. This isn't easy, especially in the age of social media where people can attack you with a single click. But that's exactly why calm and confidence become your ultimate weapons. No one can take them from you unless you let go of them. In the end, what matters isn't how many judgments you dodge, but how many times you stand tall after they hit. Confidence isn't loud, it is a deep quiet within. The kind that knows your worth is not up for votes, and if you can hold on to that, you've already won without ever striking back. 5. Act on values, not inspiration. Calm doesn't come from being in a good mood. Confidence doesn't magically appear on a sunny day when you suddenly feel strong. Those things, fleeting emotions, come and go like the wind. What keeps you grounded over the years is your values. A Stoic doesn't act based on emotion. They act based on principle. They don't ask, how do I feel right now? They ask, is this the right thing to do? That choice, sticking to principles instead of chasing feelings, is what builds real strength. In the middle of a heated argument, you may feel attacked, misunderstood. Your emotions urge you to strike back, defend your ego, and win with words. But the Stoic pauses, not out of fear, but because they understand that peace can sometimes be worth more than victory. They choose values over impulse. There's a quote by Marcus Aurelius that's simple but profound. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. You don't need a degree or life experience to understand that. You just need honesty with yourself. When emotions pull you toward retaliation, judgment, or manipulation, you only need to stop and ask, is this right? If it's not, don't do it. That's power. That's self-control. And few people truly have it, because living by values isn't easy. It demands that you set aside immediate emotions for long-term integrity. It requires you to accept discomfort, short-term loss, and inconvenience for the sake of lasting peace within. When you act on impulse, you lose yourself. Then comes regret, frustration, and a feeling of inner chaos. But when you live by values, you build an inner compass, one that keeps your direction steady, even in a storm. No one else makes your choices. For you, no mood controls your behavior. And that is the kind of confidence no external force can ever take from you. We often wait for motivation to do something, work out, apologize, say no to what doesn't serve us. But the Stoic doesn't wait for inspiration. They act because it's the right thing to do, whether they feel like it or not. And the more they do that, the freer they become, free from moods, from social pressure, from their own impulsiveness. Remember this, motivation is useful, but it isn't reliable. It's like the weather, sunny today, raining tomorrow. If you only do the right thing when your mood feels right, you'll live your whole life at the mercy of randomness. But if you train yourself to act on principle, you turn every day into a foundation for inner strength. A person who chooses silence when anger comes easily, a person who stays calm when insulted, a person who does the right thing when no one is watching. That's not emotion, that's character. You don't need motivation to do what's right. You need to remember who you are and who you want to become. And if you're asking yourself, how do I stay consistent? How do I choose values over feelings every time? The answer is coming next. Because if you want to live strong like a Stoic, you can't just think differently. You have to train your mind like you train your muscles, with discipline, routine, and daily commitment. And that is where real strength begins. 6. Train your mind like you train your muscles. The mind is like a muscle. If you don't train it regularly, it will weaken. While most people are familiar with physical training through the gym, sports, or nutrition, very few realize that thinking also needs to be trained with seriousness and discipline. And that's exactly what separates someone who lives at the mercy of their emotions from someone who remains calm and confident through any storm. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig." This isn't just a reminder to be persistent, it's a way of life for those who follow the Stoic philosophy. Do you want a resilient mind, one that doesn't get swept away by fear, anger, or confusion? Then you have to train it every single day like an athlete preparing for a major competition. A calm spirit is not a gift you're born with. It's the result of repeated choices. Choosing not to get angry at provocation. Choosing not to complain when things don't go your way. Choosing to face fear instead of avoiding it. These choices might seem small at first, but they are your workouts for the will, your way of lifting weights for the mind. Training the mind is like a fighter preparing for battle, because life won't give you a heads up before it throws a challenge your way. When you face loss, pain, or failure, the only thing you truly own is your response. And no one responds well without training. Let's be honest, no one just wakes up one day with mental steel. The people who stay calm and confident, they are the product of hundreds of internal training sessions no one else sees. It could be their morning meditation routine where they observe their thoughts without judgment. It could be journaling in the Stoic style at the end of the day, reflecting on their actions and emotions. Or maybe it's as simple as reading a page from Marcus Aurelius and asking, if it were him, how would he act in this situation? This isn't some quick fix to improve yourself in a week. It's a lifelong process, just like the body. If you stop training it, the mind becomes sluggish, weak, and easily shaken. And when life hits hard, you'll feel overwhelmed without an inner anchor to hold on to. But if you stay consistent, even just a little, you'll start to notice the shift. You'll find yourself reacting less impulsively. You'll feel a quiet strength inside, not born from indifference, but from understanding. You'll understand that everything outside of you can change. But a trained mind is the strongest fortress there is. And it's in that fortress that you'll find freedom. Training your mind is no longer optional. It's essential if you want to live fully, stay awake to life, and not get swept away by the chaos of the world. So instead of asking, how can I stay calm? Start by asking yourself, did I train my mind today? What do you think about training your mind like training a muscle? Have you ever tried journaling, meditating, or reading Stoic philosophy to grow stronger? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might just inspire someone else. 7. Death is the measure of every action. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. To many this sounds like a grim, even cold statement, but to a Stoic, it's a guiding principle, not meant to inspire fear of death, but to awaken a deeper, more deliberate way of living, because it's only when you truly understand that every breath is finite that you begin to value it. We often live as if we're immortal, postponing what matters, drowning in petty anger, getting stuck in trivial worries. But everything becomes clear when you ask yourself, if today were my last day, how would I live it? Seneca once wrote, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. Pause for a moment and let those words sink in. Seneca wasn't urging us to rush. He was reminding us to live with intention, to prepare the mind as if death stood at the doorstep, not to panic but to see clearly. When you understand that time can end at any moment, you stop letting your mind drift into delay, resentment, or meaningless distractions. You start holding on only to what truly matters. Have you heard of Bronnie Ware, the palliative care nurse who recorded the most common regrets of the dying? In her book, she writes that what people regret most is not what they did, but what they didn't dare to do. Not living true to themselves. Not spending enough time with those they loved. Not allowing themselves to be happy. They didn't live consciously until there was no time left to change course. The Stoic chooses the opposite path. They meditate on death not to sink into despair but to wake up to life. They act as if every moment is being weighed on the final scale, death itself. When you understand that any action could be your last, you choose kinder words. You stop wasting energy on prideful arguments. You don't let a quiet fear stop you from starting something meaningful. You say I love you more and complain less. You live with courage and with peace. Stoic philosophy doesn't teach you to deny death, it teaches you to face it, and from that to live more fully. No more drifting, no more waiting. Every act, every choice, every minute you live becomes clear and weighty when you know time is limited. And then one day when death comes, you feel no regret, no unfinished business because you've lived as if every moment were part of the final masterpiece. So what happens when a person not only lives fully but remains absolutely calm in the midst of chaos? In the final part, we'll explore why in a world that's noisy and uncertain, calmness is the ultimate strength. Get ready. This might just be the key to stepping into a steadier, wiser version of yourself. 8. The calmest person is the strongest. In a world where loud voices often attract more attention than silence, where outrage, harsh words, and bold imagery are glorified as symbols of power, it's easy to mistake noise for real strength. But in Stoic philosophy, the strongest person is not the one who controls others, but the one who masters themselves. Not the one who wins every argument, but the one who stays silent when insulted. not the one who walks the fastest, but the one who walks the steadiest, unshaken in the middle of the storm. We often think of calmness as weakness, as lack of reaction, as passivity. But no, calmness requires more strength than anger. Because anyone can lash out, strike back, or show attitude. Very few have the courage to stay still, to see the bigger picture, and to respond only when necessary. Composure is not the absence of emotion. It is the control of emotion. And that control is the peak of human capability. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This line is the backbone of the Stoic spirit. In today's world, mastering yourself doesn't mean detaching from life. It means living fully in it, without letting it shape who you are. It means when someone insults you, you don't react on impulse. You respond based on your chosen values. When someone tries to overpower you in a meeting, you don't need to speak louder. You stand your ground with quiet inner confidence. That calm doesn't come from bottling things up. It comes from a deep understanding of yourself and the nature of life. The Stoics don't try to control what's beyond their reach. They accept that chaos is inevitable, and they prepare for it by training their inner world. They don't wait for life to calm down to find peace. They build peace while life is still roaring. Marcus Aurelius, a ruler with immense power, is living proof of that. While holding the fate of the Roman Empire in his hands, he spent his nights writing to himself in silence, not to impress anyone, but to reflect inward. His writings are not grand or boastful. They are humble, introspective, and driven by a desire to live kindly in a world of constant conflict. He once wrote, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." That is what it means to live, not to fight the storm with a scream, but with the stillness of stone. Today we may not be emperors, but each of us has a personal empire to govern our own mind. When you stay composed in the middle of chaos, you're not just in control of the situation, you become a safe harbor for others. Your calm can anchor your family, your team, your community, and that is real power, not loud, but lasting. So don't seek validation by speaking louder than others. Find strength in intentional silence. Remember, the calmest person isn't fearless, they just refuse to let fear dictate their actions. When you master your own mind, you no longer need to control the world, because the world can no longer control you in the same way. Calmness is power, and it is the one kind of power no one can take from you unless you choose to give it away. Your mind is the final stronghold. If you can hold that line, no storm, no matter how fierce, can bring you down. Calmness is not weakness. Confidence is not arrogance. They are true strength, forged in the quiet days, shaped by looking inward, and honed by learning to respond with intention. Have you ever asked yourself, what am I actually in control of in this situation? Or, how would I respond if I weren't led by emotion? Share below. What's something that recently tested your calm? And what did that experience teach you? If this video sparks something within you, a flicker of insight, a new perspective, or even just a moment of peace, don't forget to hit like, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to keep building unshakable inner strength together. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That strength, it's always been yours to claim. In conclusion, Stoic philosophy teaches us that lasting calm and confidence are not gifts of fate, but the result of deliberate thought, disciplined emotional management, and action rooted in timeless values. We cannot control the world outside us, but we can train our inner world to remain still in any storm, from accepting fate to mastering self-discipline, and from emotional clarity to action. By principle, not impulse, this lesson reveals that true strength lies in mastering oneself. Start today, and let your mind become your strongest fortress.